Okay, so I wonder how loud this is going to be on video, because I'm still working on drying my hair. This is quite the process. It's a lot more work, than it would be just to not do anything. I don't know. Well, obviously, but I think there's a lot of misconceptions about things, and I met a lot of people on the road, like traveling, that were like really, really, like it had been weeks since like a deep clean, on their physical body. And it's like, when you're a traveler, you build up literally like a layer. Okay, listen. When you're traveling and you're on the road for an extended amount of time and you're exposed to constant elements and you're just facing the world, just you and everything, it's like our body's natural defenses build up a layer of protections for our own skin. And our skin does have natural oils. And I think like when you're in your more mainstream society and you're encouraged, I don't know what sets this standard for like showering every day. And, I don't really think that's necessary for everyone. I think it might be for some. To each their own. What is your lifestyle? What is the demand? What do you actually need? And that's exactly my point, is that we are creatures of adaptation. We're always acclimating to the new circumstances and kind of evolving as individual organisms, and also like as the greater organism of society, which is like a different conversation altogether. What I was really trying to talk about was like, if you're on the road, you actually really benefit from not showering for any extended amount of time. Like there's a certain level of cleanliness that I think is really important to maintain, like washing your hands, keeping your because we don't want to get sick and, that kind of thing. But at the same time, it's like our body's natural defenses are pretty incredible. We can actually withstand quite a bit, and we can adapt and grow into more efficient, we can become more efficient in our functioning operation, whatever. And it really just depends on your lifestyle and what that demand is, because if you are like really soft and squishy and have no calluses, it's like it's reflecting of a lifestyle that doesn't require that amount of impact. And there's nothing wrong with that either. There's just so many different things. When I see calloused hands, when I see hands that have scars and are strong and like hard, and like you can tell that these are working hands. These are hands that do a lot. And they're very like they suit the need that they are required to have. I don't know. They fulfill the needs that we have. If your lifestyle is really physical, if you're outside, if you're against the elements, when I've met these traveling people all across the country, it was always amazing to me because their levels of resilience surpass that of most. And it makes sense considering what they're facing. But just like when you're gaining muscle and you've been, lifting weights and striving to become physically strong and able to lift something and do things, and there actually is a really good feeling that comes when you're capable of doing that. And like once upon a time, I was not an active person. I was really like I would complain. It was gym class in school, and I was like that kid who just didn't really try very hard and didn't participate very much. And I was always like picked last, and believe it or not, like, and I just didn't care because I'm like, this is stupid. That was my mentality, which was, which makes it all makes sense somehow. But there was definitely a transition that took place when I decided to care. And and I really learned a lot about self-love and about confidence and about our ideas, our identity, what we're doing, how things kind of come together and kind of, it shows. You can't deny that your hands look the way they do, because they do. That's that. And a lot of times I think we try so hard to conform to something that is expected from some external source, or maybe we're trying to impress a girl or a guy or some person, or maybe even a dog or your boss or whatever. It doesn't even matter what it is. If we're changing ourselves, this could be the start of some new venture where you discover, wow, maybe you actually really enjoy the change, and maybe doing that and following your heart on that motivation leads you down a path you didn't expect. And maybe you'll find yourself there and you'll just be like, wow, I'm certainly glad that I decided to do X, Y, and Z because I met someone or I had this goal and it led me here, And at the same time, sometimes that's not always the best way to go about it. We'll never really know until we do it and get to the next steps down the line and have the ability to reassess where we're at and how we're feeling. And if you do that thing, you make those changes, maybe you do get active and you just realize this isn't really your jam and you'd much rather have a very sedentary stillness and silence and peace, and I can see such honor in I'm imagining the Buddhist monks, meditating on the mountains and stuff, or meditating in their backyard or in their kitchen or whatever. People, they'll fall on whatever frequencies, and I think even throughout the course of a lifetime, those change, and as we get older, they inevitably change. For my personal journey, it's been amazing to experience different ends of the spectrum of what is possible, and to live a lifestyle that has transformed with time, but also various forms throughout time. If you would have saw me, that kid in gym class, I doubt you would have seen me like you do now. I don't know. And I question this because I would never have known the perspective of another. And I would never truly fathom that, especially at that age where I was so egocentric, because teenagers are like that. We have to accept that there are phases of development and growth. And part of that process is really important in differentiating a sense of identity apart from our upbringing, apart from all of the structures around us. That teenage rebellion, that's really important. And we can't stifle it, and we can't we can criticize, we can judge, we can say some really hurtful things. And not that I'm condoning this or saying we should. I'm just saying anything is possible. But just understand, and it might preserve your own energy to understand, that's all part of the process. So, oh goodness. Little bit of a rambling session here. You know what? Follow your heart. Okay? Bottom line. It doesn't matter what you think what somebody told you you're supposed to do, or what's okay and what's not okay, or, the judgments that they have, they're not really even relevant to you. And if somebody is going to tell me your hair is disgusting because you never wash it, you can't wash dreadlocks, I'm going to say to myself, in my mind, this person is really not worth consuming your energy. You don't have to engage. You don't even have to, you could just give them a thumbs up and walk away, preserve your peace, live your life, follow your heart, because I know that I'm okay when from within I'm satisfied with where I'm at. And that's a little complex and a little vague at the same time. Like, the way I'm explaining it is too vague to capture the true complexity of where does our desire stem from? What is our motivation? Why do we do what we do? These questions should be revisited continuously, because something that I was thinking about even just last night is like, these transformations we're talking about, all the evolution and the adaptation, it's happening within ourselves, it's happening outside in the world, it's happening within other people. Everything's like sort of very interactive and harmonious and reciprocal and just like blending and meshing and wobbling and influencing and affecting one another, like all of it. None of that is going to remain constant enough to just do a one and done with anything. So the you that you are today is different than the you that you were yesterday, and tomorrow is another day, and that's the joy of life. We don't have to just be like, boom, this is it, that's it, whatever, here's my commitment, here's my promise, here's my label, here's my definition, I am this, and I'm gonna make a container for it, and it's just what it is. Because when we naturally, whether your awareness is there about the fact that we are influenced by all these forces, whether you hold so firmly that you are your own and you can't be touched by any of these outside things, or if you do have the awareness that there are such influences and it's inevitable, like to the point where none of us have the ability to actually control or manipulate those factors in the equation. We have, to an extent, our conscious choices, which we can do a lot with that. And that's the beauty in translating, in providing a sense of meaning towards these experiences we decide. And sometimes people don't even know that they have that choice. I think that's like a really crucial first step in gaining a sense of control and empowerment and satisfaction and acceptance in our lives. Because the more you try to like specifically direct it and you want it that certain way, it's going to get to be really difficult. It's like, I imagine you're standing in the middle of a river. The river's like, the water's like starting to rise. You're gripping on to any kind of like thing that you can hold on to. And the force of this river is strong. And it's so strong, but it's not quite knocking you off of your little branch that you're hanging onto in the center. Not yet, anyways. We have a limited capacity for what we can withstand before we become exhausted. We require rest and a reset, Without those things, we will die. Unfortunately. I mean, I don't mean to laugh, because there are so many people holding on so tightly to those ideas that they believe in their heart and in their soul that is more important than letting go and living and continuing on. Like, they'd be willing to die on that hill. Because for them, maybe that is their sense of identity. Maybe they've constructed their understanding of their entire life so firmly around this thing that to let it go would be catastrophic in their mind. To some people, it's a sense of honor, or to some people, they'd be willing to make that sacrifice to prove something. Like, oh, this belief is the thing. It's bigger than themselves. And for a lot of people, those bigger than self things, we talk about our higher powers, we talk about where we're gaining this sense of spirituality, or maybe you have, a God that you're very dedicated and devoted to, this is what we're talking about. Desire, motivation, why we do what we do. What are the very, very basic bottom foundational bricks that are holding your entire structure? to go back in and kind of scoop those out and try to make those renovations that low at the base of our foundational core seems impossible. It might seem that way, but I believe anything is possible. We can renovate those things if we so choose, if needed. If your lifestyle and these belief structures and everything that's happening is working, there's nothing wrong. You don't need to make the change if it is okay. And in my mind, it's like I can see where we all have our different beliefs. And then there are these more inclusive standards like laws and legal binds and, the boundaries of territories and stuff in history and in time and across great populations of people. It is agreed that this is reality, this is true, this is something we need to follow. It's historically, laid out for us, so we just continue it. For some, I think it's like those bricks, they'd be afraid to make changes to the Constitution or anything. But there has to be a point where we ask ourselves, is this belief actually helpful? Is this law actually even relevant? Is it necessary? Do we keep putting our energy towards it, or are we kind of misplacing or wasting this energy on concepts that are no longer relevant and perhaps are causing more harm than good? I question this because there's a lot of things that I see happening in the world that I think could use a little bit of an upgrade. Think about how often you update your phone. This is the day we live in. You can't avoid it. So why is that so easily understood and accepted? But then when we question these other sorts of things that are bringing people to fight and even kill for their beliefs, why is it so hard to apply the same form of thinking to these things? Why is it harder? And when we talk about tradition and values, and in our civilization historically, there's so much value in history and people. Their roots, they run deep. And it is beautiful. They're finding sanctuary in that. There's safety in that. There's like a greater legitimacy. There's validation for their existence. There's so much held in the hand of those belief structures and those ideas that have just really, they run so much greater, so much further than anything that I even am saying in the moment here. I just feel like, oh, but hang on a second. One really intriguing thing. I don't mean to just minimize the fact that these words are stated in this video, but I tend to want to take a more humble, I am just a speck in the great scheme of things. This is not, The whole thing was, though, some of these ideas actually also span ancient, and I'm just learning this. And where I haven't had quite a specific set of guidelines to follow and adhere to, it's I'm kind of holding on to what's making sense. And I come to find that it's not my unique creation. It is these ideas are shared across centuries, across time, in old literature, written by people who I will never get to have a conversation with, but through reading their thoughts and their words, I'm able to, I don't know if I'm the one who incorporated them to create some sense of solidity or, what that would require, but just the fact that it hits so clearly the nail on the head within myself, I'm whoa, that goes directly in line and matches identically what I was thinking or what I was feeling or trying to say, and it just makes so much sense. This feels true to me. It's igniting my heart. It's igniting my soul and my spirit, and I'm feeling that connection, and I'm like, that's interesting. Don't stop looking. You're never alone. I think we're all just, we're at different points in this sequence of ongoing exchanges, and the information. It's exciting to think of what can happen. I'm really excited to be able to share these ideas, for example, because part of me feels like the same thing. Gosh, even with the accessibility of information now, it's so awesome. But I think that like also it's overwhelming to the point where we're having this kind of like paralysis in our ability to actually take it in and make sense or use it or make meaning of it, or perhaps this exponential growth in the consumption of information has, just like Warhol talked about with his repetition. I mean, we just become desensitized and it no longer makes that impact. I mean, oh God, don't get me started on algorithms. You want to like fine tune my availability for, I guess I'm the one fine tuning it, but at the same time, I want to be challenged. I want information that is not congruent with my beliefs. I want exposure to like a little bit of everything. I don't want to limit myself to what you think I want to know. So there's a little bit of nervousness in my, in my view of what could happen for the future. But I believe, through these decisions every single day, the best we can do is do our best to do what we believe is right. And in the end, that's enough. That's okay. Because the natural ripples we're putting out matter. And I believe, when people talk about legacy, like at the end of your life, when it's your funeral and then they're saying like, hey, here's so-and-so, they're so well known for X, Y, and Z, like as if this is what you contributed, summed up in a single sentence. Like, that seems pretty bleak and kind of, it's just sad. It's too, but that's not the point. The point is there's no way one sentence is ever going to sum up, you're not going to have one label, one title, one shape. That's not you. You are infinite. These ripples are also infinite. They transform and they change, and they are making impacts in places that we can't even possibly fathom. But knowing that there is that influence, if we're moving from a place where we're working towards doing something good for the world, anything, if you're a kind neighbor or a friend, or, just it allows for a lot more greater acceptance, just having peace. I think that this is what they're talking about with the inner peace. If more people were able to reach those places, I think there'd be less conflict, because many people are projecting their own emotions and they cannot even differentiate themselves from the situation or their emotions from the person, or the blame is going in all the wrong places and they think that that's the solution. But honestly, blaming does not solve anything. It just misplaces the energy. It puts it somewhere, and then you don't have to have it, right? You don't have to hold on to that. But I wish we could understand that process is a huge distraction and diversion from actually solving these problems. And politically, or if we're speaking in terms of our own mental health, it's like there's so much that I think we could be doing that it is frustrating to see all that energy just, what if it was focused, and what if we were all on board, not conflicting with one another, but what if we were really working towards something together that united our humanity? I believe it's possible. So that's why I'm here. Let me know if you agree, it can be beautiful. It is beautiful, goddammit. And it's ugly, and it's terrifying, and it's exhilarating. It's life. It's a little bit of everything. So let's stay open. Hey, 25 minutes. Wow. Maybe this is just the standard. I'll go ahead and count down because bye.